for us? We can let people in.
All of
Okay, great. Thank you, Sophia. Can you hear us well? Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Franklin, and I'm the program director of the Hudson Valley Writing Center. We are so happy to have you with us to hear 9 incredible Broadstone poets read from their most recent collections, kicking off not only National Poetry Month, but also the 20th anniversary of Broadstone Books. If this is your first time joining us for a reading, welcome in here and out there. We hope you continue to come to our online readings, classes, and events. Please check our website for the complete list of offerings. We hope some of you will return for our next poetry event in person at the Hudson Valley Writing Center as we welcome 9 Four-Way Books poets as they celebrate 30 years of their press. There are still some tickets available as well for the Westchester Poetry Festival to hear new work from 6 poets, including Ilya Kaminsky and Rebecca Smith. That will be held at the Master School in Dobbs Ferry on April 29th. We also would like to remind you that Cynthia Manick and Jenny Z will be reading at Cantico in Tarrytown. I want to thank our founder and founding editor of Stockbridge Hall Press, award-winning poet Margot Taft-Stever, who will be reading today, the board of the Hudson Valley Writing Center, our teachers, and our students, who are the beating heart of the center. We also want to recognize all the foundations and organizations who support us, including the Vidal Foundation, the David G. Tapp Foundation, NISCA, and Arts Westchester. I also want to thank my colleagues, Sophia Bannister, Mariah Lanzer, and Christina Papadopoulos for all their hard work, and Cassie, who is making the entire Zoom part of this happen today. Thank you, Cassie. I am very excited to now welcome Larry Moore, editor and publisher of Broadstone Books, who will tell you about these amazing 9 poets and our fantastic program today. Thank you, Larry.
Good afternoon. This is amazing to be here. I just had to take this in for a moment. This is the first time I've been here. So let me start by thanking Susanna Case, who's going to be reading here momentarily, Jennifer, all of the staff here at the Hudson Valley Writing Center for arranging this event and hosting us today. This is a very special moment for us. As I say, yes, I'm Larry Moore. I'm the publisher of Broadstone Books. We are located in what I like to refer to as the far outer borough of Kentucky, where our motto is, we make Staten Island look little. Just in case you didn't think I knew about your politics. When I started Broadstone Books 20 years ago this year, with the goal of getting more poetry into the world, I certainly didn't imagine I'd be doing it for 20 years. And I couldn't have imagined that I'd be with you here today to celebrate such an occasion. I like to say, it's amazing, we somehow have ended up becoming a national press with writers all over the country and a few out of bounds, published about 150 books now by over 100 authors. But with all of that said, I like to say that the thing I'm proudest of having done with Broadstone, prouder than the books we published, is the community that we have built of our authors, the family that we have created of our Broadstoners, as I like to call all of my author family. And this place here, this is what you're going to see today, what you're going to hear today, is the greatest evidence of that, just the true warmth that these authors have for one another, the generosity of people like Susanna, who reach out to their fellow authors to make things like this possible. So I can't imagine a better place to be having the first public celebration of 20 years of Broadstone Books than to be here at the Hudson Valley Writers Center. Why New York? Because we've got a couple of dozen authors here in the New York area. That's what I like to say. We're a New York press. We just happen to be located a little west of here. So what a perfect place, what a perfect time. Thank all of you. I'd like to thank not just my authors, but the literally thousands of people who purchased our books and made it possible for us to do what we do. So thanks to you who are here in person. Thanks to you who are participating on Zoom. Thanks to everybody who's helping to keep poetry vibrant. So I'm going to stop talking and let you hear some of this poetry I've been talking about. We're going to start today with poet Susanna H. Case. And I'm probably supposed to introduce you to something, but I'm just going to have you come up. Okay, let's start with Susanna.
Thank you. The bios are on the website. Okay. So I'm going to start with one poem from The Damage Done, my last Broadstone Books book. And this is a poem about a inappropriate love object, which is the reason I'm reading that one today. We'll see why in a moment. And this is a poem about a car. Dear Gia, dear type 34 lipstick red Carmen Gia, dear razor edge Gia, expensive Gia, styled in Italy, anointed by the gods, you are the car I would drive if I weren't the Volkswagen van type. Gia, seemingly more BMW than VW, finished by 1969. Unlike the war, the surveillance, the 60s, so fast and sexy, the wood grain dash, so lusciously not a clunky American machine. My car, that's not my car. That will probably never be my car. I will always love you. Dear coupe, that is not mine. I want to cry at this deprivation, life so unfair. Dare I steal you? Of course I don't dare, knowing you for a container of death, holding a woman who looks like she's sleeping. Yet there's so much lust for you, so much larceny in my heart. It's amazing that I could write a love poem to a car when I haven't actually driven one in about 15 years. Definitely a problem on the road at this. So the reason I'm reading that one, and I want to thank the people here for so many of you have been to so many of my readings, The Damage Done, that I thought I would use this time to give you a little bit of a preview of my forthcoming Broadstone book, If This Isn't Love, which is structured around the Italian telenovela and is all about inappropriate love. So this is, there are 13 poems throughout the manuscript, much longer manuscript, that are inspired by a 26-year Italian telenovela called Imposto al Sole, very popular in Italy. And this is telenovela 3. Uno scandalo, something's wrong with the pasta business at Pastorificio Rosato, the 70-year-old family factory. Something's wrong with the documents, some sensitive information now public, the company not so financially stable. Something's wrong with Fabrizio, the head of the Pastorificio, who apologizes to the press. Fabrizio was responsible for the murder of his father. Something's wrong with Laura. Did she leak the news? Marina thinks so, but something's wrong with Marina, who isn't rational, who hates Laura. Laura will bear Roberto's child, though he begs her to get an abortion. And Marina has loved Roberto for 26 years through her marriage to Fabrizio. Something's really wrong with Roberto, who has raped Eleonora and driven her mad. Upheaval reigns as they give into passion, but who among us hasn't? They will marry and unmarry and marry and unmarry again. Betrayal is everywhere. The eyes of the pasta everywhere. Occhi di lupo, shaped like the pupils of wolves. And there is a pasta which is called Occhi di lupo. I saw wolf, and I don't know, when I looked at it, it looked to me kind of like macaroni. Imagination. Also from that manuscript, this is something amiss. True story. Deidre's had an out-of-body experience, by which she means an out of her marriage experience, blames me that her husband found out. My lips were sealed, I protest. My lips were sealed, I protest. His eyes were peeled, she lobs back, all accusatory. We've been on the outs lately after I refused to loan her my dog. She proposed to stand outside Barney's, hoped with a cute dog to meet someone new, preferably a man who could afford the pricey clothes. Her husband on his way to being ex anyway. Deidre pounds my living room wall over whether she'll ever fall in love again. I've got one more love in me, or two. For an answer, I bring her to my ex to have her cards read. He was a shitty husband, but a brilliant tarot interpreter. I can see the hesitation while he lays out the deck, tells her she'll soon wed again. He confesses to me later he lied, pulled the Chariot and the Three of Swords, meaning she'll never be able to truly love anyone. A couple weeks later, I see her outside Barney's with a cockatoo on her shoulder. It's squawking, but Deidre talks, well, mostly shrieks above the noise, to a handsome man in a suave coat who is foolish enough to try to stroke the bird. I keep walking, because if he only loses a finger, he'll be a lucky man. And this is Invasive Species, a love poem. A woman mistakes a bath bomb for soap and turns a shade of pink. She can't scrub off for days, declares she loves the product anyway. Like water horses, hippos, who turn pink in the sun from oily fluid secreted by their glands, moisturizer for dry hippo skin. I've been slathering oils on myself this winter, orangey, rosemary, to avoid feeling hippo-like when you touch me. One's lover shouldn't be too dry. A folkloric painted ceramic hippo perches atop our television cabinet. Head bent, his eyes seem to follow us. We joke it's FBI with an embedded listening device, zeroing in on two ex-hippies. A bad pun, but anything seems possible in this year turned inside out. Why not a pink-mouthed hippo spy? Hippos are bad-tempered. At all costs, they will defend their turf. Pablo Escobar, drug lord, kept 4 hippos on his Colombian estate. After he died in a shootout, they stayed too heavy to move. Yet temper didn't prevent crazed love. 100 cocaine hippo descendants float their lives away in Escobar's hacienda, Nápoles now park. I love hippos despite the havoc they create. So as you, despite the havoc they create, as you love me, my skin rubbed pink from the bath. Another hungry animal that doesn't belong where she's found, wet, cranky, digging in. Thank you. By the way, I read there are now 130 of the hippos, and they definitely are planning to move them out. Next reader is Lily Greenberg.
Hi, this is really fun. I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Larry, for traveling. And Broadstone Books published my first book, gonna beat up from readings, but In the Shape of a Woman, and I'm gonna read a few poems from it and a new one too. But this really, what he said about community has been true. I've been new to the area, have been warmly welcomed, so thanks. All right, gonna read a poem about being a Girl Scout. Maybe some of you have ordered Girl Scout cookies recently. What I learned as a Girl Scout was how to play America. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yes.
yes, what's close to the mic,
Okay.
so the Zoom. can
Oh,
see you.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We set up table in the sunniest patch of curve, and to the people of Kroger, we were easy charity in our little brown vests. We sang, "We've got Thin Mints, they are divine." Samoas, tagalongs are favorites of mine. Tasty, crunchy, oh so sweet. Girl Scout cookies are such a treat. Oh, America, give us your money. Pay for our suite at the Grand Ole Opry, our room service Sundays, our elevator screams. Hotel manager, thank us for our philanthropy. Tell us we scouts keep the world a good place. For this we earned the Cookie CEO badge, Adventure Camper badge, charged entry to Jordan's pool, Business Owner badge, dumped suds on minivans, Car Care badge. America, pay for us to sleep in the glass shark tunnel at the aquarium where the hammerheads press their horrified mouths above us. Animal Habitats badge. What a white, beautiful world full of good citizens and many thanks. Somewhere else, the boys tied knots and wove baskets and made model airplanes that couldn't fly anywhere and had nothing to do with the real rules of suburbia. Maddie said ew at the dark hair from Jordan's swimsuit line. Good grooming badge. Peyton smashed the pasta bowl, so ice cream for dinner again. Simple meals badge. Use resources wisely badge. I was 12 and my parents told me not to talk to my sister anymore. And Maddie stood on a cafeteria table shouting, "Lily's sister's on drugs." Responsible for what I say and do badge. My family story badge. As a Girl Scout, I understand American success. I pledge allegiance to my country. I serve America's God at all times. I have the buying power badge. On my honor, I have tried. Okay, is there a way to make this a little, okay, there we go. I'm like- Okay, I'm gonna read the title poem, In the Shape of a Woman. And I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, also a Southerner. And I grew up very much in the Bible Belt and in like a religious environment. And this poem is kind of at the intersection of diet culture and purity culture, which for some reason have the same rhetoric. So anyway, In the Shape of a Woman. I starfish the bed, but the word bovine hovers in my ears. Can we choose our shapes? Outside the shrubs, a city of black bees fumbling around, sperm heavy, love drunk, and monarchs open across 2-3 buds. I am not ashamed of the bees' pleasure, nor the space taken by spread wings. My will be done, says the Lord. At my parents' house, we say, not my will, before squeezing sugar-free ketchup onto a naked patty. Smallness at my parents' house is a virtue. Whose will is that? I want the forbidden flower, the sugar of sin. I want a breaking of the word forbidden. I want flower to be flower again. But my chair might not fit at the table. I could pull it, sit sideways, and learn to live with a turned neck as my parents, bless the bread we're not eating. I'm tired of fasting Jesus, emaciated, ribs crowding out his loincloth as he hangs bony from the thin cross. Give me Jesus of the 1,000 fish, Jesus breaking rules like bread and feeding the crowd. If I have to choose, do I? Let my shape be Jesus, tipping his head back into the good oil, eyes closed, saying yes as it drips to the floor. So, I'm gonna read a new poem from a new manuscript I'm working on. Sister God. My first God was my sister. I didn't know where she was. She would vanish and reappear, my Holy Spirit. Her absence, a creek of small prayers I trickled to her. Don't leave me alone. I lived in the Jerusalem of her bedroom, beneath the portrait of a sundressed girl. Was it her? I wouldn't know. When I wore her juicy sweatsuit, I looked nothing like her. I waited for a voice to say, sleep in my room, rest in my bed. I waited to run into her on a Tuesday street. Sister girl, sister hands, sister head, heavy in my arms. And the street stayed full of her, and I believed she was my sin. And people with her name flooded my days, so that when she came home, nobody saw a miracle. A woman at the edge of a bed, caving her shoulders over the gone years. Her voice, get out of my room. Families. Okay, two more short ones. I'm gonna read a poem. I was thinking about spring and a good one to read for like changing of seasons, and lately I sometimes when it gets warm out, I like don't want to sleep as much. And this is a poem kind of about that. It's called Night Watcher. I want no truck with the night of the world, but here I am anyway, a child feeling around in the dark, calling sleep, sleep. But this is not a mantra that works. Sometimes I see sleep hover like a hawk. I wave and it passes me over. So I step out of the window and lower to grass, moon bathing, peeing on the lawn. I say yes like that, and the moon gladdens. If loneliness is the most felt feeling in the world, I want to ride night like a tether into the company of other watchers. I'll bring a blessing. May your throat be clean as a house, your feet rooted to the rock beyond dirt, knees kneeling in your own heart's door. Sleep comes when it wants, but a greening of things from within, that can happen. Maybe it's happening now, to the sedge under sideways rain, bent forward, looking in on itself. All right. So one more, and this is about after a great night of sleep. So may this be the case for you tonight, after great sleep. The house of myself, I understand. I found the water pressure control. Wind is clearing out the attic windows. My shoes are learning to share in sock abundance. The leak in my basement spitting waste. I have found a bucket and it is not you. What is it each morning my mother reads to herself? Finally, I can hear it, the voice of God. Some days I know exactly what is going on. I am documenting the patterns. Miles of traffic pass by the 5 o'clock movie and me inside. Me who bows before approaching the cats. Me who sings not the song being sung. My third year, my whole body is standing at the bus stop of great seeing. What a snow globe I am. Watch me reach into a dumpster and pull out $20. My whole body, am stepping out from behind cracked glasses and welcoming the big box of wheels rolling over the road. Some days I am so clear-headed, I can hardly stand it. And next up we have Tony Howard.
I'm reading poetry in front of real people. I don't know how to do this anymore. All right, let's get this right. How's that? How's that?
That's good.
That's good? Okay. I have 2 volumes. The 2 volumes that have been printed by Larry. 4 narrative dramas in verse. I can't read any of them in just 10 minutes. and I don't want to jump around. So I will just take, I will just read the opening pages of one of them. Out from the monster's claws. Okay, let's do it. The history books tell of a teenage girl, Anne Burroughs, who arrived in October 1608 on a supply ship, the Mary and Margaret. She then married a laborer, John Lyden, and gave birth to 4 daughters. But the television documentary detailed an archaeological dig which unearthed in what was a kitchen madden the skull of a 14-year-old girl scarred with knife scratches which suggested cannibalism. Folklore has yet another story to tell. Whispered by a tour guide on the Jamestown reconstruction, a tale that made me tremble to imagine how dehumanizing it must have been to struggle for survival in a landscape presided over by someone like John Smith. I'm waiting. Anyone defying John Smith, watch out. He'll narrow his eyes, a flash of flame inside. I want to slug him in that face of his, dump him in the river, shove his head under, choke him, the bugger. She's what? 14, 15. He straps her into the stocks, feeds her to his revved up mob. Waiting. Old Drasty. Minute I arrived, that's what they called me. Put me in my place, bottom of the nobody list. Bugger wanted me sent back right away, gray hair and droopy shoulders, out of his line of sight. Put me in the saw pit underneath the logs so we shape into battlements, breathing sawdust all day long. Stood his mob, like barking dogs ragging a squirrel, is unforgivable. She with her hands locked in the boards, they shower kitchen waste on her, bones that lodge in her hair, their fingers scritch beneath her skirt, badger her breasts. Nothing she can do but shriek and weep. So I am nobody, old Rusty, and nobody waiting to help her somehow. You'll tear me to shreds, I know. Even so, I must. Night. The moon bearing down on us. Men gone to their cots, sentry lost in the shadows. I slash my axe against the ropes. 3 times, 4, they snap. I pry the stocks open, hold her hand, she howls. I flatten my arm across her mouth. She bites, kicks me away, puts it like a frantic rabbit into the forest. My twisted foot, I stumble behind. She plunges through the grasping undergrowth, squashing it, splintered branches left dangling. I reach out my hand to stop her. Don't, yeah, she yells, whacks and whacks me. Face to face, she scoops a handful of dirt, checks it, chucks it, bang into my eyes. Not to look at me like that, like all the others. I tell her no. I'm looking at someone young in dreadful danger. Rush on your feet into the shrubbery, leave a giveaway path. They'll track you down, pull you back. She screams at me, never, not going back, no, never. Poaching on bluebird estates back home, I've learned how to survive in the woods. Footprints, soft and silent, lift the branches, lift the feet. Walk in the dark of night, sleep during the day. Another danger. Powhatan hunters in the forest. Got knives and arrows. Out for blood. Perhaps Jamestown is safer. Oh, she pummels me, my chest. Spit flying. Never, never. Says she wants to meet the Powhatans. Ask them to take her to one of their own. Naugatuck. They spent time together on the Mary Margaret. He smiled at her, talked to her in English. Who knows why he was taken to London, why he was tied to the mast on the way back. She said everyone snubbed her, but he laughed, chatted with her. She shared the food she was given, brought him a blanket. I hear the singing of a brook. Should I maybe suggest we follow it? Keep the water by our side, so if we stray, we'll shut away confusion. Always a place to come back to. We find a spot to settle in daylight. Hack branches and shrubs. With the axe I carry in my satchel, build a leaning shelter. Watch her wriggle inside, give her my coat to wrap herself. Stretch myself out on a bed of weeds, hidden beneath a blanket of branches. Her sobbing wakes me. I want her silent. I beg her to be calm. John Smith for certain has soldiers out looking. With the brook singing past, she weeps me her helpless what could have been. 6 of them, 5 sisters and a brother, often clustered in front of the fire. Loved to sit warm and weave cats' cradles. Loved the songs their mother taught them. For all the day long, owl sits in a tree, and when the night comes, away flies she. When their mother died sudden in her bed, the sisters were bargained off by their father. Scullery maids, farmhouse helpers. Brother ran away not to be seen again. And I'm here to listen. I don't know what to think. Unaccustomed, people don't tell me their stories. She's calm at last. I give her a twinkle of bread, stashed in my satchel for hungry moments. Watch her crumple it, stuff it in her mouth. Tell her how my body has been battered for years, maybe 50. Could be more. I do it ever by hiding invisible. As with Bugger Smith out looking for us, we hide by night, sleep by day. Something I've not ever done. Daring to share. Nose, nose, jolly red nose, and who gives you that jolly red nose? So sotted drunk, I passed out sleeping on the street. A ship's crew carousing past for a lark, they picked me up, dumped me on board, wake me next morning surrounded by ocean. For a moment, overesting. At her smiling. She scrambles back into her shelter. I'm left wishing I had a fire to my feet, staring into the flames and pondering how she astonishes. When we walk, I feel her on my heels, begging me to pick up speed, desperate to escape her blistering memories. As when the Mary Margaret pulled into the dock, with her on the deck for all to see. Stood beside the man and wife she was bargained to. Because a child born in Jamestown will bring him fame in London, Bugger Smith thinks only of himself, staggered her away to raffle her as a wife. The blacksmith won, rushed her to the church, asked priests to bless their union, hugged her to his smithy, threw her on the ground to have her. Everyone listening and sipping spit, he snarling, she shrieking. But the child brought him off, wriggled free, left him fuming. Priest in the sermon condemned her. 'Tis sacred duty, a wife must bear a child. Priest and father, godly righteous. That's the wicked. Lord Jesus, that day will ever be. And who's up next? It's Anne Round. There you are.
Thank you, Tony. And thank you all for being here. This is fun. I'd like to start with a poem. It's not the title poem, but it's the cover photo poem taken by a dear friend of mine, Pauline Moffett-Watts, who was also a colleague at Sarah. She called it Lapse Persimmons, but I've called this poem Persimmons on the Ground. In a world of so much ruined beauty, look here. Palace lights fallen, split and smashed on the ground. Brilliance down. Oh, it's a sadist's dream. Gelatinous, satiny flesh, there for the scooping. Skin peeled in broad horizontal. Skin fringed as if by the haircutter's shears. Each luminous wreck of skin and flesh still wears its crown, a star of brown leaves. Why should you imagine fat, sad clowns in torn costumes and too small hats? The tents are down, the circus train has departed. Look here at decomposition. Speak, if you speak, of fallen brilliance, flesh and stars. Sorry. This is contra dance. Would you catch a snake in a noose of silk? Tame a tiger to drink your milk? Green as sorrow, gold as good. I thought by now I'd have understood. In the ticklish grass, what sidewise sighs? If only's rumpled skirts flash by. Rear view looms small, not yours to keep. Ahead lies never, too broad to leap. Penny for the ferryman, penny for a chance, penny for the fiddler to make you all dance. Sachet, shoe fly, up to town and back. Hoof it, flog it, stomp it, till the stars burn black. So it turned out strangely that I used epigraphs for two poems in this collection from the same extremely famous sonnet by Shakespeare, 116, let me not to the marriage of two minds and impediments, love is not love, which alters when it alters so I used the first line and a half for the epigraph to this poem, and the title is Let Me Not, but it's spelled K-N-O-T, so this is Let Me Not. I guess it's a kind of a love poem. To test our desolation, I rose from dark to dark. Peaks of glassy basalt, the local stone strode silent. I ascended by careful enumeration, inscribing the day's black blazon. Charred hemlock trunks, cinder tracks, burnt thatch, dark windows, dead hearth. The air grew thinner, and so did I. I emptied my packs and pockets, yet felt my footfall less free, a born stumbler, foot dragging my natural form of locomotion. Just within sight of my goal, the lake so hidden, they say it never reflects blue sky, I twisted my quit song, that mortal coil. Forced into bloom, a red tulip lurched in my chest. Oh, brave mountaineer. Now I'm no more than my boot tips kicking the scree, tied by the heartstrings to all my loved impediments. I'm going to finish with an advice poem here. We all need advice, and I love to give advice. 45 years. This is Proverbs for complicated times. Two birds in the cage have more fun than one in the hand. And it doesn't hurt if the cage is gilded. Ask me no questions, and I'll tell you what happens in Vegas stays out of mind, but makes the heart grow fonder. Keeping everlastingly at it brings numbness. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will initiate lengthy and punitively expensive legal proceedings. Babies who live in glass houses shouldn't throw out their bathwater. It takes two wrongs to tango right. Early to bed, early to rise, and the wise child catches its own father turning into a worm. Haste not, want not, nothing gained. Thank you very much. Please welcome Lynn Nichols.
Hi, it's so nice to be here and see everyone. I'm just going to read one poem from my Broadstone book, and they're so beautiful. All the Broadstone books are so beautiful. Larry designs them, and they're just gorgeous. Okay.
Then make sure to get into my,
Sure.
thank you.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Elegy for my sister. I'm listening to that rock ballad you loved. Radiohead's Don't Leave Me High, Don't Leave Me Dry. The same voice you swayed to just before you stopped listening, stopped singing, stopped. I'm listening for you now, replaying your songs, the ones you lay on the floor in headphones listening to in high school, the ones you blasted in your car 20 years later, picking me up at the airport, asking me to work the gear shift, your collarbones still healing. It's the least I can do now, swaying back and forth to your anthems, shivering on the subway platform, ceiling beams black with soot and glazed with ice, swallowing songs that course through me to you. There is light, you would laugh to hear me say it, at the end of the tunnel, one blurry orb as the train appears, splitting itself like life set into motion, sharpening into two distinct eyes as it nears. A small sun burns in my throat.
I'm salty with exhaustion, limbs loose, arms light enough to float, and I let them rise and drift as you would, to the song's sleepy rhythm, hearing the music as you would, then hearing it without you. Naming. So there was a new species of tarantula found near Folsom Prison, and it was named Anaphonopelma Johnny Cash-Eye in honor of the late musician Johnny Cash, who was, of course, a big part of my childhood. Naming. Johnny Cash sang from the blonde hi-fi in our house, and he wore black for the poor and beaten down on the hungry side of town. He was the same age as my father, who had black hair and was coltish and tall and cast his fishing rod with a quick, casual snap. Someone who has the power to do so, name a just found streak of rock, a block of onyx, pulling darkness, then releasing it as light. Name that rock after my father with his quiet flair. Name a new species of migrating tern, forked tail splitting with never before seen snap and fan. Name that species for my nephew with his unruly genes, his differently split ways. Let some newly discovered particle, indissoluble speck between somber neutrino and high-spirited electron, let that particle be named after his mother, my sister, her flash intact. Okay. Sorry, I was just looking for one. I was sitting and, you should never do it. I mean, that is like the rudest thing you can do. So here it is. Okay. So, yeah, so my nephew just died right before COVID. He was 33. He was severely autistic and had a lot of other things going on, but what a life he led. Differently alert. He doesn't make eye contact. The nurse reports of my nephew who is limp with sedation, lips slack, ventilator wheezing on his behalf, inflating his lungs in a rhythm both amiable and stern. He looks right past me, she says gently. He's probably unaware of his surroundings. We thank her, too polite to point out the monitor's appeal just behind her. Neon green zigzagging across its screen. We don't bring to her attention the splendor of syringe pumps stacked in a tower, the elegant tangle of cables, polished elbows of pipe. My nephew, who took the door off the stove before he could walk, who faked seizures to score an ambulance ride and rolled into that luminous cavern, tools, stares past the nurse at an alluring silver dial, a corrugated blue tube, and is unbothered at being part machine now himself, almost fitting in. That was in a really nice magazine. I can't remember now. There have been so many notes. I'm kidding about that. Okay. So I'm lighting it up for just a few more short ones. Found poem, Medicine Cabinet. Susanna, you have any minutes? Okay. Who can resist the promise of invisible protection? I want something that rebuilds, restores, and refreshes my life. And I want the option to apply it daily, liberally. I have good judgment. I know when to wear long sleeve shirts, pants, hats, and sunglasses, when to avoid inhalation or check the quality seal, but it's not enough. I want a proven strength system, an alpine breeze, instant, sleek. I want an infallible foundation. My past life as an early human. It's indisputable reincarnation. Those thousands of interviews, the 4-year-old who says he was shot down in an armor-plated single-prop plane over the Pacific, the 3-year-old who lived in a village near a volcano, she says, and names people who corroborate her stories. I have a past life as an early human, and so do you. Splash water on your face. You'll snap from frontal lobe action to activation of the oldest and most primitive part of the brain, the limbic cortex, once allotted a lot of fuel just to give the signal to go from fight to flight. If you're in a place where crying is discouraged and you're admonished to go wash your face, do it. The early human brain kicks in. She has priorities straight. This is the last one, the golden hour. Late afternoon on any given Saturday, a playlist vibrates my windows, songs I picked up on TikTok or from the soundtrack to a streaming series, pop hits and beloved vintage singles. While I might fail to seize the day, I rarely pass on the chance to seize the golden hour, the time when outdoor commercials are shot, the lawn gold with sun, when cocktails are mixed, amber poured into a chunky glass. It's the time bridal shoots are held, a woman in a voluminous white dress posing between crumbling Doric columns, overlooking the Hudson, basking in golden light, her face golden, her long train golden as it cascades down the marble stairs, and I am dancing in my living room, my dog watching with soft eyes of love. The next reader is Margot Taft Stever.
Thank you, Lynn, and I wanted to thank Larry Moore and Jennifer Franklin for organizing this reading series, and I'm so excited to be here with my Broadstone Press mates, and I appreciate the remarkable link between Broadstone Books, Flappering Hall Press, and the Hudson Valley Writers Center. I'm going to read poems from my latest collection published last year by Broadstone Books, and the first poem that I'm going to read, many of you have heard before, and I'm sorry it's not exactly light and spring-like, but it's titled Ballad of the Dolphin. Ancient Greeks said they should be treated as humans. Their sailors would not kill dolphins. How I have thought of you, caught in the fishermen's nets. They would set them to trap you to catch the tuna that swam under your schools. How the fishermen hung you still alive, upside down. Your cries brought others. Fishermen grabbed you by your tails, strung you and turned you head down in water, tied you to lifting hooks and dragged you to the docks. If any of you were still alive when they slung you on cement, they stabbed you. How last survivors churned the water red, leaping in panic, waiting to die. In a good catch, it took them 3 days to kill all of you. How mothers whose calves were entangled could not lift them to the surface. They listened to their helpless underwater clicks and sighs. How often I remember the whale skippers who would radio the location of hundreds of you, allowing tuna fishermen to track down your entire pod. Their nets, deep, foaming, wide, so that hundreds could fit inside. How they used underwater sound to confuse and drive you down. How many of you drowned? Fishermen did not want to compete with you, but killing you was not enough. How they used the screams of several to slaughter more. How one of you hangs from the crowd, still alive, calling, calling. That I took notes about 10 years or 15 years ago. I couldn't really look at them for that long. And then I realized that this has been going on and still goes on. And the European dolphin is now on its way to extinction, largely because of this, and perhaps some other reasons as well, but mostly this. Many of the poems are also on the fragility of our human family. This one's titled Molly Sky. The Molly Sky, the lemons in the tree. The Molly Sky, the lemon squeeze. So much has happened since you left the apple tree. The worms have ridden with the red. The sky is bare and blank. What is it about birds, their bodies rounder than ours, and their wings, so certain of flight, so clear of the tangled wind? The hawks with bells on their tails gird the highest trees, still to spot their prey. The treed squirrels, the bunnies startled from the thicket. Everything that moves is game. Bird feathers are straighter than an arrow, straighter than a tree. The ocean is the sky, and you are me. Leaves hang like fish, lobes on the tree, autumn brown, browned out. Hang like little faces, hang like faces, past faces hanging from the tree. Susanna H. Case and I edited the anthology, I Want to Be Loved by You, Poems on Marilyn Monroe. Many of the poems by people here are included in the anthology. It was the winner of the 2022 Pinnacle Book Achievement Award and a finalist for 2 other awards in the anthology category. And I wanted to read my poem from that book, which is both in this book and in the Marilyn anthology. We also learned so much about Marilyn Monroe, and her life was remarkable. I would definitely recommend people to read about her and learn about her life. Beauty parlor. A pedicurist clips a hangnail from a client's big toe, while Mr. Mark, cultivated Belgian, whittles away at her hair. He praises her Botox, only 5 injections, her face now full and taut. In 1905, blondined hair was scandalous. Over a century later, I'm trying to make mine as platinum as possible, bleach out, then blend with the gray growing in, cut down on visits and costs. While I stamp out signs of age, my stylist, a striking woman who was recently a man, talks about her boyfriend in a soft, masculine voice. On the corner below at Lexington 28th, we observe a woman, blonde hair straggling, like Marilyn's on her way down. But this woman's roots have grown in, 3 inches of black. What a shame, exclaims Mr. Mark. The woman stumbles, ropes the trash can, body bent over off balance. Oddly leaning, she careens, wobbles into the street, bus brakes screech. She hawks green phlegm. Must be on crack, says one client. Mr. Mark wonders, why doesn't she do something with her hair? I feel like I've gotten a bad rap because my hair is natural now. I used to dye it. So, yeah, I know what you mean. So, I'm going to hear 2 more short poems from the collection and 1 new poem. Unlike Susanna, I haven't written a book, but I've written 1 poem in the last 2 years. So, end of horses. I write to you from the end of the time zone. You must realize that nothing survived after the horses were slaughtered. We sleep below the hollow, burned out stars. We look into dust bowls searching for horses. When you walk in the country, you will be shocked to meet substantial masses on the road. We do not know whom to blame or where the horses were driven, who slaughtered them, or for what purpose. Had the horses slept under the linden trees? The generals and engineers pucker and snore on the veranda. And this is the last poem of the book, Ocean Birds. Jealous is the night, the feckless night, coming over us as water into sea. The forceful day's geography turned black. Your body is the sea I float upon, your skin becomes the waves. Nothing will ever bring you here to me. Nothing will ever call you back. And I want to read 1 last poem, which is the new poem, and it's only related to the book. It's not in the book. It's related to it because it's about an accident that occurred a number of years ago that almost ended my life. So it's sort of about the end of me. Horse and rider falling. Every second, noises invade her like bullets, a fractured spine, a fractured neck. Noise from the outside comes in. Unknown birds make crying sounds she cannot identify. She remembers nothing except approaching the first fence of a 3-stride line and nothing else, not what happens, not her ambulance trip to the hospital. Only when she was much, much younger than she wished. She only wanted to be Annie Oakley, only cared about her riding, about her horse Target. Horses have magical bodies, bellies that almost scrape against the ground, and she is held hostage. She always wonders what they think when she straddles them, legs encircling. Approaching the first fence, the binding force of the horse and carries her. Knowing how to get out of the horse's way, she gives of herself. She is part horse. They are both seers of the path, seers into the passage as they press forward, guiding the horse straight to the fence, holding still. They pool their senses, vision, all the time galloping, galloping. But she and the horse crash over a fence, both falling. She remembers nothing. What is it that makes the mind remember, makes the mind forget? The rain comes down like slush, like sleep, the restless, frozen rain. Thank you. Let's welcome Meredith Tree.
Thank you. It's so nice to be back here. I was here when this place was being born. And I thought about that, and I also thought my book is about 2.5 weeks old today. So just so we know, unlike the title poem is Bringing Back the House. The house was built in 1912. And I'm not telling you when it was built. Anyhow, the house on the Jersey Shore that we brought back was purchased by my father's sister Louise and her husband Joe in 1941. I'm the youngest in the family and the only one left. So I guess this is sort of an elegy to a house. The first book is called 2 Blocks from the Beach. A weathered gray lattice woven fence wraps around the backyard of sandy soil and bristly grass. My bathing suit chafes ocean sand as my bottom rubs back and forth against the rough plank of the swing. I miss that sound. Every arc up, I tickle my toes on the blue hydrangeas. Outright pops out of the shower, terry cloth sarong threatening to show all her old maid pinkness as she lifts her arms, pinning her swimsuit to the sagging line. Uncle Joe's always at work in the summer office. Aunt Lou has dibs for the shower. Then my dad, her baby brother, favorite. Mom scurrying to be helpful. Me, I'm always last, blazing in the late August sun, smug and snug in these perfect days that will last forever. The next poem I actually wrote while I lived in Phillips Manor, which you'll hear. Summer's falls. Wind screaming through our tidal river valley, Love's burning tide to white-winged waves, retrieving sea-scented, funky marsh memory from Egg Harbor to Haven. Hurrying gulls home, laughing gulls leave after summer's peach cake, Jersey tomatoes, Jenny Lind melon, last pitchers of red rose iced tea for a pale pink, feel pale city kid. The silky liturgy of summer shelter days, slow to wake, drift to the dunes, escape the waves. Copper tones smeared on sand dusted skin, eat cherries, read the Nancy Drews. Remember to say or not say the right thing to the right aunt. Pretend to not notice that the uncles don't speak. Remember, forget. the house had been hoarded and it was in really bad shape. When my cousin was seriously ill and we didn't realize. So the you in this poem that is my cousin, my older cousin. Let her go. You were so unused to eating food stuck in your throat. At our last family meal 11 months ago, you needed the Heimlich. Living on lemon ices and coffee ice cream, hospitalized 2 days. The day before you died, you promised me you'd try to eat. Damn it, you who had been a head nurse, crossed even vitamins off the meds list I found when I cleaned out the house. Back when there was time, you taught me to color within the lines, bought comic books, carousel rides, slept with me from Northeasters, took me to Radio City, downtown Chinese food, eased me, 16 and trembling, to view your father in his coffin. You only 25, even then you seemed so old, freighted with caring, but you could balance a hot pizza slice on lacquered nails, wear sexy cocktail dresses, and have cruise ship romances. Be my maid of honor twice, be with me in divorce court. And when you'd still leave South Jersey, I took you to MoMA, the Met, Ellis Island, trying to return a little of what you'd given me. But as I spiraled out, you curled in critique. My politics, haircuts, work, friends, till my only calls were obligation. I forgot who we had been. A doctor called. You had named me next of kin. She was shocking you to live. I was left to say, let her go, let her go. I haven't read that. The next poem's called Uncle George's Fish. Uncle George was actually my great uncle. He was an architect and a weekend painter. It took me a long time to refer to the house as mine. It was my aunt's house. It was my cousin's house. And so Uncle George's Fish. An oceanscape painted by one well-to-do relative, given to another, coveted by my mother. She on the poor side, holy water side. Flat rocks, stiff waves, and bubbles ought to tell her, look, this is a fish out of water. Gills panting off the canvas, one-dimensional rocks and wilted seaweed. She saw art in a substantial frame. Abject hints for one of her own unheeded. When grown and finally debt-free, I bought her a quick-stroke seascape at a Cape Cod shop. Check marks of gull, slinky spirals of wave, hung over the sofa with pride, where it stayed after she died, till it hung by Dad's nursing home bed. At his death, we left it there, while Uncle George's Fish still hovers on the silk-papered parlor wall of the seaside house that's come to be mine. I can dispose of this fish as I will. My daughter says the fish belongs on our wall. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. I'm so grateful. I'm changing my name now. Okay, is this okay, Mike-wise?
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. All right, I do indeed have a new book from Broadstone, and I'm very happy to be in this place after 3 years for Broadstone. It is the insubstantial pageant. This insubstantial pageant. And I thought I would frame a few of the little poems from the book by reading the quote that some of you already know. This phrase comes from the exquisite speech of Prospero in the Tempest. I'm not going to read the whole speech. These, our actors, are all spirits, as I foretold you, and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself. Yea, all which it inherits shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. So fittingly, I'm going to read the first poem from the book, which has a title of the most famous stage direction in Shakespeare, which is no need for you because he usually didn't have any stage direction. And it's called Exit, Pursued by a Bear. When I was paid to wear a mask, I lauded authenticity, off stage as well as on, transparency, the open book, the open vein, my song. All the world is still a stage, though I'm a different player. It seems the mask works just as well off stage as it works on, taming that unruly shrew we nickname honesty. Think about it. It's a little prose poem called I Want to Be a Part of It. On the #1 train, an older man plays his horn and a recorded music box while holding a cup for contributions. Down the aisle, from the other end, comes a young man with no legs, propelling his chair. "How you doing, Alex?" asks the older man with a horn. "Hey, it's New York," answers the young man with no legs. The older man nods and plays, "If I can make it here, I'll make it anywhere." As I look down on you, I love you. And the epigraph reads Summer 2020. As I look down on you, I love you from my back balcony on your communal roof. I view where you placed a rectangular table so humans can dine together socially at a distance after 7. First, you prepare the barbecue and set the table. I like to watch you turn each piece of chicken. Then the salad bowl appears, and then the wine. Other humans now relishing the time. Tall, lean, and elegantly graying. Anthony Bourdain or Prospero. 3 nights a week you create the feast, which lasts beyond the dark until it disappears. And the last poem I'm going to read has a number of plays and films that were made by these 2 extraordinary and exquisite people together. You will also hear a few other aspects of their life. You can also hear about them in the HBO miniseries and a current book. But my poem is called Paul and Joanne. Lasted a great broad, she called her. And when he left the world, he'd been with the broad for 50 years. From the long hot summer on the terrace, Rachel, Mr. and Mrs. Bridge, winning. It may not all have been a picnic, but theirs was a story to love. Necessary for love is memory. 7 years later, she's now lost most of both, but still remembers this. I used to be married to someone very handsome. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your incredible readings today. We are so happy to have you here. Don't forget that all the poets are selling their books here. Please support them, buy their books. And also, I want to show you our most recent books from Suffering Home Press. They are also here for sale. Bone Wishing just came out. He's our chapbook winner. And this is Dorian Lux and Layla Shati, the Conversation chapbook. So we will help you buy these books after the reading. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget, we have another reading, prose next week. Right here, 4 p.m. next Sunday. Thank you. Bye.